All right, welcome everyone to the Financial Freedom Through Apartment Investing, a proud affiliate of the GOB Network of Apartment Investors. I am your host, Mark Caesar, and tonight I have a very special guest with me, a gentleman that I've connected with through social media world and very knowledgeable in this space, Mr. Bud Evans. A brief background on Bud: he is a retired police officer, as well as a retired military officer with the USAF. He was enlisted for 19 years when he was commissioned. When he was commissioned to know what work means. He retired after serving 34 years, but plays ice hockey at various levels and coached for about 20 years. He's also developed training programs, evaluations, and project management processes for 4 different units in the USAF. Bud is an investor and licensed agent who currently operates in New Jersey and Pittsburgh, PA with single-family homes. He was recently selected as the lead real estate investment coach for Tariq El Musa. Bud is now pivoting into the commercial multifamily market and going to close on a 6-unit and looking in Georgia, the Carolinas, and Philadelphia, Pittsburgh MSAs for his next great opportunity. Bud, thank you, sir, for being present with us. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. So I've heard of this topic, velocity banking, quite often. I found it a very intriguing concept. And when you said that you actually know and are knowledgeable in it, I had to have you here. I think that it is a topic that people can definitely benefit off, whether it's trying to grow your returns, paying off bills quicker, whatever the case may be. It is such an awesome concept. So feel free to explain to us and just break down what velocity banking is. The floor is yours.
Sure. So there are 2 basic differences. There are 2 terms that get thrown around a lot. One is velocity banking and the other is infinite banking. Okay. They're very similar, except that velocity banking has to do with paying your mortgage down in rapid succession. And infinite banking is using your home equity line of credit after you've paid it down or while you're paying it down, taking the balance remaining on your home equity line of credit and creating infinite returns on your investments. And what I mean by that is you are not taking any money out of your own pocket, purchasing rental properties or investing in multifamily properties, and the returns that come in are paying your mortgage back off. Okay. And whatever's left over is yours to keep. Okay. And I'll give you a kind of an idea how I use it. I use it right now to buy BRRRR properties. I was on Aaron Goins' podcast or webinar the other day, the All-in-One, and we went through, not only did we go through how to use a home equity line of credit, we went through the BRRRR strategy, and we went through a cash value life insurance policy, which are all creative ways to basically use other people's money to fund your investment goals. Okay. So if it's all right with you, Mark, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go through the real quick BRRRR process that I went over with them. Then I'm going to show you exactly what the HELOC process is. And then we'll finish that up with a discussion on cash value life insurance and how I use that.
You should have sharing capabilities. If you don't, please let me know.
But really quickly, before you go, can you again say what the 2 differences between velocity banking and infinite banking, please?
Of course. So velocity banking is taking a home equity line of credit as your primary mortgage, living out of your basically your HELOC, living out of your mortgage because it has check writing privileges and it has a Visa check card. All of your bills come out of that HELOC and all of your income goes into that HELOC. And if you have a balanced budget, I'm going to show you exactly how that will help you pay off your mortgage in 5 years or less. And I mean, if you just started your mortgage at 30 years and you have 90% or less on your mortgage, you can pay off your mortgage in 5 years or less. It's not magic, it's math. Simple. Okay. And we do that because of the difference between simple interest and compounded amortized loans. Okay. Infinite banking is using that same process. And when you get to a certain point, taking out money, investing it, and then taking the returns on that money and paying your mortgage back down. Now, it works best with fixed assets. Okay. Appreciable real estate is what we're talking about here, which is why I use it for BRRRR, because I can grab a rental property from this, use my own money. Well, I can use my mortgage, not actually my money. It's the bank, okay, that holds my mortgage that is actually funding this deal. Then the tenants are paying the rent, which goes into my HELOC, which pays it down. So there's actually nothing that ever comes out of my pocket directly. And because of that, it's the amount that you've invested, which is zero. And then you take your returns, divide it by zero, and that creates an infinite return. There's no mathematical formula that allows you to divide by zero. Okay, you get an infinite return. Okay, that's the Bud's understanding of mathematics version. All right, so here's the disclaimer. It's standard stuff. I know it's been up there for a few minutes, but I am not a CPA. I am not a lawyer. Laws vary from state to state, so please check with your attorney or your CPA. There may be a catch. Like I just found out today, I'm a licensed New Jersey agent, which Mark told you all. In New Jersey, you do not have to report deaths in a property, no matter what the cause is, because it's not a material defect in the house. Just found out that there are other states that actually make you report that stuff, which is weird to me. So yeah, please check with your local laws. Okay. So I don't provide financial, legal, accounting advice. I just tell you what I've done and how it's worked for me. Accordingly, before taking any action, the information that I'm giving you right now is sample documentation. These are things that I use. You may have to modify them based on legal or accounting requirements. And I encourage you again to check with your licensed professionals before you take any action on any of the information that I'm giving you today. Okay. So with that, I'm going to jump right into this. All right. So we went through that. Cone of learning, guys. I'm gonna flat out tell you that watching me on a webinar is not the best way to learn this stuff. Actually going out, and I'll give you a couple of websites where you can go out and you can check this stuff out on your own, so that 90% of what we're talking about today, you'll actually be able to implement, specifically with the HELOC, velocity banking, infinite banking, and checking it based on your own mortgage. Okay. Michael Gerber's EMyth. It's basically, why do small businesses fail and how do you prevent it? You build your business like a franchise model. So anybody can walk in there. I'm doing it actually right now. I'm restarting my active investment through real estate, wholesaling and flipping, in addition to the BRRRR strategy, because now I have a little bit of excess money. So I'm kind of throwing it back in there to get this going. So you're making it like anybody can take the reins, like McDonald's, right? It's the largest corporation in the United States, and it's run by teenagers, basically. Okay. Your chances of success, if you do this and implement this appropriately, increases dramatically, basically exponentially. And then the key to increasing is not working in your business, it's working on your business. Find a way to replace yourself in that business and let others do it for you. I am in the process right now of, so I've hired an acquisitions person, I've hired an administrative assistant. I'm in the process of hiring someone to assist my my purchasing agent, and eventually I'm going to hire someone to replace myself so that I can move on and just do the vision stuff and let them deal with the day-to-day operations. So one of the 7 habits of highly successful people, basically it's, you spend 3 hours sharpening your tools, and if you have 4 hours to cut down a tree, right? So you spend 1 hour actually doing the work and 3 hours prepping for it. So if your business if you have yourself out of the business and you're doing better, okay, then you're at the financial freedom entrepreneur level. right? And that's kind of where you want to be. You don't really want to be at the technician or the manager level, because then you are, no kidding, you're a solopreneur, or even if you could be a multipreneur, right? So you've got a bunch of people under you, but you're still the focus of the business. Pull yourself out of it and it crumbles like a house of cards. Okay. So in 34 years in the military, here's what I learned. Don't develop employees, develop professionals. Train them to your standards and then evaluate them periodically. And then once they're ready to be on their own, give them direction, broad direction, and then watch them be creative. Okay. Task them, but don't always say, hey, do it this way. In fact, I had my acquisitions person, my acquisitions manager, I had a bunch of videos that we had created. It doesn't give you specifics. It gives you broad spectrum. This is how you do lead generation. This is how you pull. This is how you generate growth. And I had her analyze it and come up with a process based on the integrated systems and software that we have. She's crushing it. She gave me an outline today. I'm going to be reviewing it with her tomorrow, and I'm learning things. So always be a student. Task them, and then they probably have kind of Elon Musk, right? When they wanted to build the heaviest rocket on the planet, the largest rocket on the planet that can lift the heaviest payload, he went out to engineering schools and stopped using engineering professionals, because engineering professionals would tell him that it's not possible. You can't do that. Okay, so there are multiple progressions to wealth, and you guys are looking at the, for the most part, multifamily properties. In this case, we're talking about how you generate your turnkey or stabilized properties, which is the smallest portion. You can rehab yourself, you can hire professional managers and all that stuff. So progression is kind of like the pyramid. So you can skip around it, but basically it comes down to how much you can market, how much you can work, and how much you can raise capital based on how much time you have to generate all of that stuff. So beginning, you're pretty much prospecting and working every hour, as Mark can attest. Starting a podcast is not an easy thing. You're basically, as much as possible, you're working your leads and massaging them into lucrative projects, running your own wholesales, knocking on doors if you're into single family properties, driving for dollars and all that stuff. Also, you can create a higher budget so that you can generate more leads and eventually get yourself into a position where you have enough capital to work. And you can take that income, you can buy flips, you can cherry pick leads, and you can keep some as well. Or you can get involved with multifamily investors like we are, and take that capital and double your money every 5 years or so, right? Okay, so here's the basics, and I'm going to go through this quickly because I went through this last time, and everybody's got a story. So Mark already pretty much said it. So yes, I'm a 30+ year Air Force vet. I am retired. Okay, I need to update this. I have to go in Wednesday to out process. My ceremony is on the 16th, and my official retirement date is on the 31st of this month. So I have to update the flips and wholesales. I actually have 30 flips and 10 wholesales. I realized I hated them both. I did 14 bird deals in just under a year, and now I have 21 doors, and I'm in the process of as Sandoval knows, I'm in the process and kind of standing on the fence of a 48 unit portfolio deal right now that hopefully I have closed by tomorrow, so that we can finalize everything and then actually possess the properties before I retire. And then I did a couple of podcasts as well, and several webinars, and I'm the lead coach for Tariq El Moussa from HGTV's Flipper Flop and Flipping 101. So everybody's got a story. So there's a lot of stuff in here that you don't see. I was given away at birth, raised by a meth addict and alcoholic parents, constantly berated for being stupid, unwilling to compromise, primarily because I was bored in school. I could do my physics homework in my head. I failed tests in other subjects because I didn't work. I didn't show work. And then I didn't do homework. Why should I if I was getting 90s in other classes? I squeaked out of high school, barely noticed with a B- average. Guidance counselor told me I wouldn't be successful in the Air Force, said I wasn't smart enough and I should probably be a trash man. Had a scholarship taken away from me for rowing my senior year because of my grades. My parents were divorced and told me I was screwed and I'd have to go into the trades, but that's where they fell into addiction. So here's what I did. I left, I joined the military. Yeah, that's the face I give people when they tell me you can't do anything, right? So here's what it is. I have associate's degrees, munition systems technology, specifics in missiles. So technically I am a rocket scientist. Contracts management degree in 2004. I have a bachelor's of science in finance with a minor in accounting. Academy military science graduate with a GPA of 3.9. That is a very difficult 6-week course with 13 weeks of information jammed down your throat while you're being physically hazed and brutalized by the US military. It no longer exists because it's now determined to be too violent. I have master's of business administration. I have my MBA, and I'm a burr strategist and HELOC advocate since 2019, and now teaching that and creative financing for Tarek. All right, pretty smart, right? Well, here's the key. I didn't know anything, right? So I started reading some books. The main book that I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Everybody knows about the Purple Bible, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my entire method of thinking at 48 years old. I thought I knew what I needed to know about money. You buy, you save, you get a pension, you retire, and you die, right? Essentially, you work another job until you're done. So yeah. Then I got into a self-growth challenge. I decided that if Warren Buffett can read 52 books, hold my beer, Warren, I'm reading 86. And I did. In 1 year, it was like another part-time job. These are the books that I started out with. Please feel free to screenshot. And if you need me to copy that and send it to you, I'd be more than happy to do so. But these are some books that really kind of had an influence on me. The Think and Grow Rich, Make Your Bed by Admiral McCraven was a huge one. There are a couple of others. Primarily Jocko Willink and Leif Babin wrote books called Extreme Ownership, and then they have a follow-up to this in the series. They also have a great podcast. Jocko Willink might be one of the scariest men in the world. He's a Navy SEAL. He's a multi-degreed black belt, and he's an MMA guy. So anyway, this is my partner. He's Matt Zwitkovich, right? Because, you know, I grew up in the Cold War era, so of course I gravitate towards the Russians. Matt decided that he was going to lend me money as a private money lender. And then within a year decided that he wanted to do more than that. So he bought me out of my company kind of this way. Hey, so I met this guy in a bar and we were talking about real estate. And the next thing I know, he became my private money lender and then purchased my company. No kidding, right? So, well, here's the thing about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So Kiyosaki wasn't the first guy to write about your money. George S. Clason in 1926 wrote a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which was based on documents that were found in Mesopotamia over 4,000 years ago. Okay. So this is not new. In fact, finance is in the Bible too. I'm not going to go down that path, but here are the things that came out of the Richest Man in Babylon. Start your purse to fattening, pay yourself first. Simple, right? Most people, at least the investors that I know, start by paying themselves first. Control your expenses, make your gold multiply, guard your treasures from loss, make your dwelling a profitable investment, right? Now, I'll tell you right now, your house, if there's equity in your house and you're not using it to purchase more assets, your house is not an asset. It's a liability. You're paying money to live in your property. You may as well be renting. Ensure a future income and then increase your ability to earn. Okay. So the big argument that came out of the Kiyosaki book with me and several of my friends in the finance field was, is your house an asset? For the arguments that I lay, I argue that it is not, unless you are actually using that equity to purchase other assets, which is why I got into the home equity line of credit and the creative financing aspect of all this stuff. So Matt and I created a company called Code 3 Properties, which is a passive income company. Okay. So what we do is we purchase properties, rental properties. We buy distressed properties, we rehab them, rent them, refinance them out, and then repeat. And this is not something new to a lot of people. And I apologize, Mark, that I'm going through this really quickly, but I really want to get into this stuff. So I'm just going to kind of glance over the things that I do quickly, if that's okay. Awesome. Good. So here's what we're doing. So everything is systematized, right? That's what we talked about, systematized. So every cover is exactly the same. This is my old company. This is the one that Matt and I changed to Code 3 Properties, but this was one of the properties that I did. Our due diligence is very simple. We have a conversation with the homeowner. That's the lead sheet. We look at the tax assessment. What's the valuation of the property? MLS map of the comps, then the comps, the off-market comps. We evaluate all that stuff. We do a repair estimator, and then we do a deal analysis. And all of this stuff is before we even walk through the property. Walking through the property is actually something that we do after we do an initial deal analysis to see if it's even worth it. Because if we're looking at a maximum allowable offer of say $75,000 and they're asking $250,000 for the property, you know, we'll make an offer. It's not going to be anywhere near where they want, and we know that's going to be trashed. So, and it depends, especially in today's market. So, seller lead sheet, we go through that. This is a wholesaler's example. Basically, it's, hey, this is what we got. This is the, you know, 3-bed, 2-bath. After repair value 375, they're asking 210. We go into the seller lead sheet, which is I have automated into a system called automated deal flow or real flow. We look at the tax assessment on that area, and you can multiply the assessed tax rate by the millage rate. And I'm not going to go into that. Believe me, that's a whole different thing. Mark didn't tell you, I was also the mayor of Cinnaminson, New Jersey. So when we talk about tax assessments, I know way too much about local taxes. Pass. We'll talk about that at a different time. Looking at the map of the comps that we have here, we're looking at the specific area within a block. You don't cross highways, you don't cross fields, you don't cross major waterways or anything like that, because the comps change from neighborhood to neighborhood. I grew up in Philly. I can tell you this: if you're on one side of Germantown Avenue, the houses are 350,000. You cross Germantown Avenue, they drop to 65,000, and you'll get shot. It's that bad a neighborhood. It's called the Badlands. Right across the street is West Oak Lane. Okay, so these were the comps that we were presented with, which is why we were able to sell the house for 425,000 instead of 370. I use SmartDraw. Believe me, if you guys want to walk through a property with a laser tool, do your own measurements, you can drop this in here and do this kind of stuff in a matter of minutes. We also have our repair estimator down, where everything is automated. I can walk through the house with an iPad in my hand. I can do it on my cell phone if I need to. I also have a spreadsheet that we use that is directly correlated to that electronic, so that if I do this, if I don't have that with me, I can put it down on this spreadsheet on a clipboard, walk through, come back, drop it in, and I'll come out with this. We can plug the information in directly into this spreadsheet. This is actually automated through the same thing, through the same CRM that we use, and we can pull out all the information and figure out exactly what kind of return that we're going to get. Now, this is not a BRRRR calculator. This is a deal analyzer. I always look for a second exit strategy, and in this case, my second exit strategy is a flip. So if we were going by the numbers that the wholesaler was giving us on that property, it wouldn't have worked out. But when we went through and we looked at this, based on the purchase price, we could have made $22,218 holding the property for 6 months. We did it in 3 with a 15% return, which was fine. But for the BRRRR, I use the calculators on biggerpockets.com. I'll be honest, they're very nice. They're very pretty. They look like this. And when you throw them into a portfolio with your presentation to a private money lender, they like to see the bright colors and the picture. And then you tell them the numbers while they're looking at the big pie chart that shows 50%, coming back to them or whatever it is. Now, like we talked about, I always have a second exit strategy. So if the numbers work, if we're talking about a BRRRR, I want to look at cash flow, right? We all want to look at cash flow. On a multifamily property, we might be looking at $100 a unit, maybe $200 a unit. On a single family property, I'm not touching that for less than $300 to $500. And I've got to have better than a 15% return if we're going to flip the property. The question that we come up with all the time is, and this is what my students ask me, and when I do webinars on this, they ask me all the time, how do you make the determination? Do you flip it or do you hold it? And then my question is very simple to them. Which would you rather have, $30,000 now or $300 a month plus appreciation, plus depreciation, plus the tenant pay down of the mortgage? So if the rental analysis works, we hit them with a purchase and sale agreement. This is an assignable contract, which means there's a third exit strategy. If we are purchasing this from a cold call or an SMS text campaign or a mailing campaign, or they came through my website, any one of those, and I don't have the space, the time, or the patience at this point to actually deal with another flip or another BRRRR, I will wholesale this to another individual. And this purchase and sale agreement right here gives me the opportunity to do exactly that. All right, finances, scope of work, very simplified. In this case, this is the one that I will give to my hard money lender. It's broken down into draw periods, which is something that I give directly to my contractor so that they can see exactly when they're going to get paid and exactly what they need to do to get paid. So in this case, top line, we're talking about permits, fees, and demolition. They're going to get paid about, I think that was about $2,250, if I'm not mistaken. The dumpster costs were about, what was it? Yeah, somewhere around, yeah, so it was about 2,000. Yeah, it was $2,000 and it was $2,100 for labor and permits. So they got paid after about 4 days or something like that. We take those calculators that I was talking about, we throw them into the private money lender folder, and they sign this contract, and there's a promissory note. There's a checklist that goes along with that, along with the table of definitions that we use, and I get them, locked down. We have a contract. They know exactly what the terms are. I know exactly what the terms are, and we go. This is the actual scope of work, and we have a very detailed scope of work. Guys, if you're doing this in multifamily, this is not going to be one workbook. Okay. You're not going to have 10 pages here. You're going to have, depending on the size of the unit, if you have a 100-page or 100 unit property, you're going to wind up with 100 of these potentially, right? And it's all going to be tied up in your business plan, and you're all going to have to explain that to your investors. Hey, this is what we're doing to each apartment. And you got to break it down in that manner. And then there's going to be one encompassing landscaping, mechanicals, electric, plumbing. You guys know what I'm talking about. When before they get rented out, while we're still doing the rehab, we have to hold vacant property insurance and get a certificate and provide that to your hard money lender. We have 6 critical documents that I deal with every contractor that we use, and the GC is responsible for getting all of these signed. So the ICA, or independent contractor agreement, is one of the 2 most important out of all of these. The independent contractor agreement says, this is the price we agree to. Yes, I'm bonded. Yes, I'm insured. Yes, I'm licensed. Okay. Then the number 6, which is the lien waiver, which is signed at the end, says, yes, you paid me what we agreed upon. Yes, you don't owe me any more money. And yes, this job is complete. So that if they ever try to come back to you and file a lien against your property, construction lien waiver, I've seen them. I've actually taken houses based on these because people don't pay them and they're gathering interest. It's not as intense as a tax lien, but it's up there. I mean, they can basically foreclose on your house if you don't pay it for a period of time. The detailed scope of work we went over, the payment schedule we went over, the indemnification is just the certificate of insurance, and then a W-9 because they're going to be paid as a 1099 employee. And guys, I do this with, now if it's an electrician that falls under the contractor, the GC, I don't need a W-9 from them, but they will file an ICA. They will acknowledge the scope of work. They will acknowledge the payment schedule. They will show me their certificate of insurance, and they will give me a lien waiver at the end, every one of them. All right. Then we hit it, right? Permits in the windows. That's it. Hit it. Everybody loves demo. It's the best part of HGTV, in my opinion, when you watch Chip and Joanna Gaines run through walls. It's hysterical. All right. This is what we talked about. Once the contractor's done, final and unconditional waiver of lien, they sign it, you're out of trouble. Now, and then we check for required rental permits. We know this actually going into the deal when we do our initial due diligence, whether or not we need to hold permits in specific towns. Like Palmyra has one, and Pennsauken does too, but Delanco, it was a phone call. And then your property manager, as you guys all know, your property manager, whether we're talking about a single family property or we're talking about a multifamily property, no matter what the size, if your property manager sucks, you will lose your cash. It's just going to happen. You're going to lose your butt. All right. W-9, everyone knows what this is. Now we've gone through the process. We've rehabbed the property. We've got to change our insurance after we rented it out. Now it's an occupied structure. We're doing this prior to refinance. Then we're going to actually refinance, and hopefully we're going to be able to pull some cash out. In this particular case, that property that I was showing you, we pulled about $28,818.96 out of that. That was a really nice check to be handed at the end of the day. All right. So that is the end of that. Did I lose everybody? I can't see anything. Mark, still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
Let me do this. Stop sharing that for 1 minute. All right, and I'll break this. I know I went quickly through it. This is, guys, this is like every podcast that you hear, Bigger Pockets podcast, anybody who does single family properties. This is, you know, even though I am a rocket scientist, it's not rocket science, right? No, nothing, Mr. International, not even a chuckle. It's a dad joke. Come on, man. Right. Yeah. So that was a lot of information. I understand that. Okay. But let me show you, I'm going to show you exactly what I do and how I do it. Okay. With this stuff. So back to that there. Okay. Let's talk about a standard mortgage. Everybody loves a mortgage. Where'd we go? All right, there we go. Okay, so, all right. In this particular case, I've already pre-calculated the numbers, guys. I'm not going to lie to you here. Okay. We're looking at a loan amount of $250,000 with a valuation on the property of $340,000. We're looking at an annual interest rate of 2.65% on this particular fixed rate mortgage. Okay. It's compounded monthly and its payment frequency is monthly. Okay. The yearly property taxes, it's Jersey. I'm using an estimated 7,000. I'll tell you this, based on these numbers, it's going to be more like 9 or more. Homeowners insurance, $1,200 for a single family home, half of that for a condo or a townhouse. And in this particular case, just for argument's sake, I'm throwing in an additional payment of $310 a month just to make it an even $2,000, just so you can see that you're still paying $75,000 roughly in total interest over the course of 30 years. Okay. And at the end of 5 years, you still owe 200,000. You haven't paid more than 50,000 on that mortgage down. It's crushing. Okay. Now, and by paying the additional 350, you're saving $38,000 on your mortgage. Okay. If we were to do zero here, you know, then there's zero change and you're paying $112,000, goes up by 25%, more than 25%. So let's go back to the 310 and our payment is $2,000 a month. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to go directly to my home equity line of credit and voila, my mortgage is higher. I'm taking out a $300,000 mortgage. My interest rate is 3.5%. Simple interest calculated, in this case, daily, depending on which bank you go. But let's just say, for argument's sake, we're talking about monthly, okay, which simplifies it because this is based on, no kidding, like what is your balance at the time that you're getting billed. So to put it in perspective, if you have a $10,000 net monthly income, okay, and your $8,000 budget, which now no longer includes your $2,000 mortgage, and that's important because I'm showing $6,000 here in monthly expenses because I've taken the mortgage out. And this is what everything that you pay above and beyond your interest rate in simple interest, everything that you pay, unlike a traditional mortgage, everything that you pay beyond your interest is principal. In this case, we're looking at, where is it? Calculate. There we go. Where'd it go? All right. So we're looking at your house will be paid off in just about 109 months at a 3.5% interest rate with a $6,000 down and an annual fee of $35. And I've got future draws in here of 75,000. How did that happen? Here we go. So I've taken $75,000 out 12 months from now, 24 months from now, and 36 months from now. And I'm still paying it off in 109 months. Let's take that to zero. Now we're taking zero draws. and then we'll recalculate that. Now, now you're at 86 months. You're paying off a $300,000 mortgage in 86 months. If I were to take out 12 months from now, let's see, where am I 12 months from now? We'd be at $50,000 down. So at 36,000, let's see, you'd be at 150,000. So you can take out 100 after payment 42. Okay. So let's go to 36 months from now, and we're going to take out 100,000 and we're going to invest that into a multifamily property. I'm still paying that off. No additional expense, by the way. There's no additional expense here. You're not increasing your expenses other than taking that 100,000 out and buying that investment property. I'm not putting that back in at this point, and I'm still paying it off in 116 months with $100,000 taken out. If I increase this, let's say that is paying me, I'm taking out that $100,000. Okay, same thing. And I'm putting that towards the home equity line of credit. That's where you're talking about infinite banking. All right. So let's say we have same thing. Now I'm going to go back to zero here. Okay. We owe nothing and we're taking that 100,000 out. And we're using that same thing. And we're buying after you've paid off your property and you're buying into an investment that's got a 5-year maturity, an equity multiple of 2, and a 10% cash on cash return. If you're putting, it's a payment here. If you're putting that information or that money back into this, even if you're just living the way you normally live, you're keeping all of that cash and your property, your house is paid off again in 25, 26 months. Does that make sense? Now, this is where it'll really blow your mind. All right, let's say, just for sake of argument, we're making $100,000 on the $100,000 that we put in, and we're going to put an additional $50,000 in there. Okay, so $50,000 over 25 months, what? $2,000 a month, roughly, right? Yeah, no. Okay, so let's do this. We're putting that back in. Your house is paid off in 17 months, putting in half of what you took out. Now, if you are buying a property that's going to pay you $300 a month, $500 a month, and you're putting in the down payment, okay, on a $100,000 property, and you're taking that 20 grand and you're basically saying, okay, I've got a mortgage on this property for 30 years. Oh, and by the way, you can use this on rental properties, right? You can actually take, it's a little bit more difficult to get to, but you can get a bank to give you this on a rental property, which really, it grows exponentially. Each time you do that, you might be able to get 2, maybe 3 max, depending on the number that you totally have. But in this particular case, you can see that your current payment is still, it's $5,003 a month is what you're overall paying to this thing, and you still have your current income of $10,000, right? And I'm not saying that and that's above and beyond, because your mortgage is paid, you're done, your house is paid. This is the investment money that we just put out. Does that make sense? I see eyes rolling. No? Mark, hit me. Are we confused?
Makes sense to me. So I'm not sure if anyone doesn't understand what's being explained. Feel free to ask questions.
Hit me with questions, guys, because honestly, this is pretty much it. And I'll throw numbers at you all day long. Now, where this really gets crazy is when we start talking about a cash value life insurance policy in addition to this. Because if you have, let's say you put $100,000 into a cash value life insurance policy over the course of a year, initially you're allowed to take 50% of that. Now, that's not saying that it's only 50%. If you do that for 5 years and you have $500,000 in there, you can take a $250,000 loan. Now, and if you don't believe me, reach out to Adam Duran, and I guarantee you the information that's coming out of him, I just verified it with him a couple days ago. So the information that's coming out of my mouth is from him. Okay. And again, he's a licensed professional insurance agent who deals specifically with cash value life insurance policies. That information is, we can put that out on my bio. I'll drop a link in here, and everything you could ever want to know about me is in that. So here's the deal. You take a cash value life insurance policy, you borrow half of it. You're getting paid 4.7% on the $100,000 you have in that cash value life insurance policy. We're tracking that, right? So 50,000, you buy a property with that. You do the BRRRR strategy. You're getting paid still 4.7% on the money that's not in there anymore. You are lending it to your company. So you're borrowing it out of you're still getting the 4.7. You're borrowing it out of there at a rate of 4.3. So you're still making more money than a standard savings account at 0.04%. You're lending that money to your company. In my case, Code 3 Properties is going to borrow this from Bud Evans Trust at a rate of 10%. It's got to pay me 10% on that 50 grand. Where does that 10% go? 4.3% of it plus my 50,000 goes back into my account. The rest of it, it's in my pocket. It's interest. Now, dividends are paid at 15%. Interest is paid on your current rate of income. I don't have income. My companies have income. I don't have income. So this comes to me at a 22% tax rate. So I just took $50,000 out of an account for money that doesn't exist, and I'm still getting interest on it, lending it to my company, who is using it to flip a property and BRRRR that property. I'm pulling the 10% out of that, putting 5.3% or 4.3% back into my own CVLI with my 50 grand, keeping the, 5.7%, putting that in my pocket. And then when I refinance the property, get money out of that too. Purely legal. I call this HRPT, how rich people think. These are the things that I never knew. I had no idea that these things existed until a few years ago. And then once I started educating myself on these things, it was mind blowing. You're making money by making money on money that doesn't exist. It's an infinite return. And when you're using your home equity line of credit to fund your insurance company or your insurance account, and then taking that money out of your insurance account and then paying that money back. And even if you take that 10%, that's yours, that, the 10% that you paid yourself from your company, and you throw that back into your home equity line of credit, cash value life insurance policy is paying for itself too. But Mark, that's pretty much it. And I'm sitting here looking at glazed over, silent people's eyes. So
that is a very interesting concept. Now,
questions, please.
I'm not sure if you answered this already, but how does all of this get taxed though?
Yeah, so that's huge, right? So Code 3 Properties gets taxed. When I pull that money out, that gets taxed as income, but you have write-offs for the repairs on the property. Okay, so if I pull, say in that case, $28,000 out of my flip, or in this case, it was a BRRRR. I pull $28,000, pay my PML, my private money back, take that $28,000 and put that in my pocket. Okay, that's a distribution. So in this case, it was, we broke that up as 5% profits And we broke that up as, let's see, it was 5% profits, 20% dividends, 15% taxes, and 30% operating expenses. That's the way we broke that up. So we took a payout of about 15, about 20, what was it, 25%. We took a 25% payout on that stuff. The dividends are taxed at a maximum rate of 15%, and the profits are taxed as your taxable income. Now, at the time, I was making decent wage because, military, plus I'm a coach, so there was some stuff coming out of there. So I was at about the 30% tax bracket. So the profits got taxed at 30%, and the dividends got taxed at 15%. And to put it in perspective, with all the rehabs that we did, I never paid a dime. In fact, the government gave me back $12,000 last year, and my adjusted gross income was 11.
I have a question.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bud, for a great presentation. So let's say, for instance, you're talking about here, when you're talking about using the HELOC, you're talking about using that for a recently purchased home. There's something you can also, can this work also for a home that you have purchased already?
Oh yeah, well, you can buy a house using your HELOC as a primary mortgage.
Right.
So to put it in perspective, I have a lieutenant colonel who moved down to the Pentagon. This is how I got turned on to this. Lieutenant colonel friend of mine moved down to the Pentagon and bought his house using Replace Your Mortgage. They gave him the information, the questions to ask, the banks to use. He went through Penn Fed, had them do his HELOC for him. And within 3 years, because his wife is an attorney, she does some part-time attorney stuff, and her income was all discretionary, plus his income, plus they had a decent budget. So they had, half, they were living on about a little bit more than half of what they made. Plus they got the kicker and the COLA. So basic allowance for housing is the housing allowance that the military gives you to be in the military and live in a certain area. Living in the DC area, it's increased 40%. So in this case, he took all of his BAH, basic allowance for housing, put that money into his home equity line of credit. His house was paid off in 3 years. Then
so,
he called me and asked me, "Hey, Bud, how do I invest in real estate?"
Okay, so now let's say, for instance, I have a house already, right?
Mhm.
I take a HELOC loan out now.
Yep.
How would I do that? So what you're saying is that I would take all my funds from the house, right? And instead of putting it into the bank, a checking account, you're going to use the HELOC as a checking account, a basic checking account.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yep.
And then when you purchase a property, or you put a down payment on a property, that property, instead of having a separate account for that, you take that money to put it back into the HELOC to pay it off.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Or you can make a owner's contribution to the account of your company, and then make an owner's repayment, or, it's not a distribution, it's a repayment of a loan plus interest from your company to your personal account, or in this case, back into your HELOC.
Okay, thank you.
Now, is there any growth rate with this strategy, or does it stay stagnant over time?
The growth rate, there is an adjustable mortgage. Generally, HELOCs are generally an adjustable rate mortgage, but I will tell you this: I've run the numbers at a 2.65% interest rate. Even if my numbers, which are right now at 3.4 for my home equity line of credit, if it was to go up to 7.5%, I'd still be making money and getting out of my house in 6 years or less.
Gotcha. What is, for a question I'm pretty sure a lot of people may ask, or may not ask, what is the risk with all of this? Is there any, or is there none?
There's risk, obviously, with everything. I'm going to drop my information in here before people start dropping off. There is always inherent risk in real estate, period. I will tell you that I did just watch a video. So at the bottom of this, guys, is my contact information. That contact information has Replace Your Mortgage, the CVLI information, Adam Duran's contact information, all the stuff that we talked about today. There's a section of this called, stuff I use, and it's literally stuff I use. Okay, so please feel free to check those out. Yeah, so there is inherent risk in real estate. You know that as well as I do. The fluctuations in the stock market are a lot more drastic than real estate. Real estate is a very slow wave, where the stock market is, like that. So 28 or 2008 to 2012 was pretty much the worst that we've seen. And those houses are worth twice as much as they were in 2007. So as far as that goes, yeah, there's risk. But it's short-term risk. And if you're using this process to purchase rental properties or multifamily properties, I'll tell you guys, multifamily properties within 5 years, when you're talking about that 5-year plan, it's a short strategy, and you're semi-hedged against inflation. But long-term purchases of 30 years, you are in the most hedged investment asset against inflation. Because if inflation goes up, the value of your house goes up because the value of a dollar goes down, and you can essentially pay your $200,000 property off. If it's worth 400 grand in 5, 6, 7 years because of the devaluation of the dollar, you're still making that appreciation. That appreciation is going to outpace inflation all the time. I can say that with about a 99.9% accuracy that it's all the time.
I have another question for you, and this is like sort of a debate that I've always heard transpiring a lot. With this strategy, I know you say you can pay your mortgage off in a shorter period of time. There are other people who say don't pay off your mortgage. In your professional opinion, what is the best avenue? Should you pay off your mortgage? Should you not pay off your mortgage? And how does this concept fall in line with those two questions?
Okay, if you have equity in your house and it's stagnant, it's wasted money. Like Warren Buffett said, I like to send my dollar bills out like little kids in the playground. I want them to go out and then bring their little friends home for dinner. Okay, that's what I'm looking for here. So if I have a $300,000 house and I have $200,000 in equity and I'm not taking that money and investing it, then I'm paying for my house, which makes it a liability. If I'm taking that 200,000 out and then I'm investing that and that's paying my mortgage, my house just became an asset for every dollar over and above my mortgage. And that's what the investment is paying me. Okay. So if you're paying off your mortgage and you're just sitting on a house that's, yes, you're getting 3%, 2 to 3%, maybe 4 on average. In Pittsburgh, it's a little higher right now. Pittsburgh, if you're sitting on a house, you're making 11 to 12% per year because Pittsburgh's market is stupid because of the move of Silicon Valley over to Carnegie Mellon area. And they just got a big DoD contract, and then there's an Amazon warehouse and a Tesla research thing going in over there.
You're saying on house values?
Oh yeah, house values, absolutely. Yeah, my returns over there have been in the last 2 years have been over 400%. But then again, that's also calculating in leverage. I'm at 1,066 point something return in the last 2 years.
So the main goal, and thanks for the presentation, it was great.
Frank, I can barely hear you. I'm sorry, man. Let me turn my speaker.
Oh, might be me.
Okay, try it again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
I was having shoots headphones. So the main, I guess, the main reason you're doing this is to obviously pay less on your primary mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
pay less interest.
Exactly. Right. You're to pay less interest over what you would pay over the long term, but then to also take the additional money from the HELOC and basically piggyback it onto another property. So you're basically like you're kind of like adding to your portfolio of properties, right?
Yes, to a degree. So the intent is one of two avenues, and they're not mutually exclusive. You can take the velocity banking avenue and pay your mortgage down and have a, live in your house interest-free, just paying your taxes and insurance every year. That's great if that's what you choose to do. My intent is to go with the infinite returns aspect of this. And every time I get about $50,000 to $100,000 in my bank account, take that back out, throw it another property, get that property to bring me cash in. My returns are infinite because those accounts are paying what I put back into that property is once I get that, pull that back out again in a bar, I throw that back into the HELOC, I'm back where I started. Rinse, cycle, repeat. Okay. So I can buy at any given time $50,000 to $100,000 in leveraged properties. And those properties will pay me $300 to $500 a month after I take the money back and pay myself. So remember, I'm taking that loan out against my HELOC. It's my HELOC. I'm lending that to my company, making 10% for myself. Bud Evans Trust, okay, is taking that 50,000, let's use $100,000, making 10%. So I'm making 10,000, giving it to Code 3 Properties. Code 3 Properties is taking that money, buying a property or two, renovating those properties, renting them out, refinancing out of it, giving me my 100,000 plus my $10,000 back. I put the 100,000 back into the HELOC, put the 10,000 back into the HELOC. Now I've got $110,000 less on my mortgage. Do it over again. See where I'm going? So my returns on that are infinite because every time I do it, I'm making more money.
Tell me about the 10%. I mean, you're using that as an example.
Yeah. I lend private money at a rate of generally 10 to 12%. And depending on the risk, I'll charge points.
But you're saying you'd be lending it to yourself, right?
In this case, yes, but I also lend to others.
Got it. How does that? I can't wrap my head around that.
Okay, so if let's say you're a single family home investor and you're looking for gap funding, okay, you have to come to the bank. They're going to charge you. They're going to give you 80% of the value of the property. So on a $100,000 property, they're going to give you 80 grand. Okay, and you need 20 grand to close the deal, and you don't want to use your own cash. And you know that the value of that property is 200,000.
Right.
So you're going to pay me 10% on that 20 grand to close the deal for you. Now, my difference is I want to be on the operating agreement of your LLC as a preferred shareholder, not as a second lien position. And the reason that
I mean more so like you're saying you're borrowing it against yourself. How does that work?
Oh yeah. So I'm an owner. I lend my company $100,000 or $50,000 or whatever it is for the close. Okay. The company closes the deal using my money. They rehab the deal. They refinance the deal. They pay me back plus my interest. I don't own my company. Aim High Properties owns Aim High Properties LLC owns Code 3 Properties LLC. I'm lending Code 3 Properties money. I have an arm's length transaction. Aim High Properties is owned by my trust. Now, again, I don't know if this works for all of you guys. Again, this is where you go to your local CPA and say, or whoever you're using, your real estate based CPA, and say, hey, is this the way to hedge? You know, how to set up your corporate structure. Because right now I have 5 different LLCs with an LLC S Corp and a trust.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. Did I answer that for you, Frank?
Yeah, it seems like, and maybe this is, I'm not saying it's not, but it seems like a thing that you hear and it's like, this can't be right? Like
right. It's one of those things on TikTok, right?
Yeah,
tell me something tell me something that if you knew this, you would think it was illegal, but it's not, right?
Right.
Yeah. I can lend myself money. Better yet, I can rent my house to my own company for 14 days a year at a maximum of $500 a day.
Yeah.
Guess what I do every year for $14,000, right?
Yeah.
I have 2 different companies that I use, and I rented out to Code 3 Properties for 14 days. I rented out to Aim High Properties for 14 days. I could rent it out to Bud Evans Consulting. That's a little tight because my name's on the company, but yeah, I could do that too, right? Why not? $21,000 right off your taxes. There's your adjusted gross income.
Wow, super interesting.
Creative financing is fun, man. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. I think creating money out of thin air is a concept that a lot of the wealthy has been doing for eons now, and a lot of people have yet to fully grasp it.
Yes.
So it is very interesting. I mean, I've heard about this a while back, and like Frank, I had to wrap my mind around it as well. I was totally confused, and once I actually sat down and understood the concept, like wow, just to see how guys create money out of thin air, just like it's amazing. So
Yeah. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I do nothing but read this stuff online all the time. I listen to Tom Wheelwright's podcast every Thursday. I listen to Jeff Buck. Oh my goodness. I can't remember the podcast name. Anyway, so yeah, I listen to basically money podcasts, right? So CPAs and whatnot, it makes me crazy to understand all of the things that I never knew were possible. Like, Greg, you get a question or you?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Frank says yeah. I'm just waving him. Says yeah. Right.
All right, see you, Frank. Yeah, sorry. So the things that I didn't know that I wish I would have known so that I could have retired 10 to 15 years ago would have been awesome, because I'd have done a heck of a lot more at 35 than I can at 52. Right. So
we got a question from Andrea Foley. She's asking, does this only work on flips and burrs where you get a chunk of your money back to repay it?
Oh, that's the simple answer, Andrea. Would you like to unmute and ask a specific question? Because I can give you specificity, or I can give you the what if a rock falls out of the sky type of answer. I'd really rather be specific.
Yeah, I get the whole like paying it back, but I'm just still trying to wrap my head around like, if I guess I don't understand. You're taking a HELOC out on your primary residence?
Yes.
And then you're investing that, and then the money you make off the investment pays it back?
Yep.
But like, what if it's only a couple $100 a month?
What if it's only a couple of $100 a month?
It doesn't seem like it'd pay off very quickly.
Well, if you're investing in the property, okay, let's say you're taking that 100,000 out of your HELOC. Okay?
Yeah.
Your lifestyle doesn't change.
Right.
Your payment won't go up. Well, I'm sorry. Let me scratch that. Your payment will go up. Your interest payment will go up, but your budget doesn't. Since you're living out of your checking account, which is your home equity line of credit. So if you're budgeted for $8,000 a month and you're bringing in 12, 10, let's say, you still have $2,000 a month of discretionary income that's going back to your HELOC. If you take out another 100,000 and your interest rate raises your payment from 750 on a 250,000. I'm just throwing this out there because this is kind of where I started. So you get $750 a month in interest payments. Okay, maybe it jumps to 780 if you take out another 100,000. Your budget doesn't change. You're still making 10,000. Now you're making 10,100, and your interest payment went up $100. But you have an investment. If it's an asset that's a long-term asset, it's going to pay off your HELOC. You're still paying your HELOC down.
So it's kind of like using it as a savings account. Like right now we just take all of our extra income and we just put it in our savings account, and then we invest that money. So you're saying instead take out a HELOC on our home, which we probably have around that, like 100, and then just put our quote unquote savings money back into our HELOC.
Yep. So this is going to sound stupid because you guys, like people, when I tell them, oh yeah, no, I took the $20,000 I had set aside because I already put money down for my son's wedding in April. I took the $20,000 out of the one account, the $40,000 out of the other account. I put it on my HELOC. It's still money, right? It's just now I'm not making the 0.01% on my savings, but I'm saving the 2.65% on the amount of reduction in my interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a simple interest rate. I don't know if I believe I said it in the beginning. but the simple interest rate is the key to this working. Because every time you make a payment, your interest payment goes down every month.
That clarifies it. I think I missed that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I said it right at the beginning when I talked about the difference between infinite and velocity banking and why a HELOC is better than a mortgage. Yeah, so it's that fact. It's that the mortgage is amortized over 30 years and there's nothing you can do about it unless you make extra payments, and you're still going to pay almost $50,000 more, even with that $350 extra a month I was paying. You're still going to pay $50,000 more than you would on the HELOC in interest. Because it takes 15 to 20 years for you to start paying more principal than you are interest. But on a HELOC, it's instantaneous, and your interest payment goes down monthly every time that you're putting in that discretionary income.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any question for Bud in regards to this amazing strategy?
So
All right.
there's probably only certain banks that will do these loans, right? Like these, like larger HELOCs like that, or like what do they expect out of you to do that?
Yeah. So I will be honest. There is an affiliate link in my link there. There is a fee to pay to replace your mortgage. You can research this online and do it yourself. It took me months, and then I got that phone call from that lieutenant colonel who said, "Hey, if you do this, they'll give you the list of banks." I know of two right offhand, East Coast stuff. That's Penn Fed and TD Bank. Mr. Laddie and I, we both know that one, right? But if depending on the area, and this is what I tell my students, I only have New Jersey banks because that's all they'll release to me. I only have New Jersey loan officers that are familiar with this because that's what they'll release to me. So if you live in a different state, then I would suggest you reach out. It's $3,000 for the premium, the platinum package, which gets you everything, the list, the Facebook page, somebody to walk you through and guide you. And then my contact information is in there as well. If you have any questions, reach out to me.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions? We're going to wrap this up in a bit.
So let me get this straight, Bud, again, because I heard you say this to 100, right? Because I want to make, you know what? Because I want to make sure I cross my I, dot my I's and cross my T's.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to get this property. I took the HELOC loan out, right? I take the HELOC loan out. I use the HELOCs, not all the, I don't use all the HELOC. I use some of it to get another property, a down payment. So all you're saying is that instead of paying, you're going to take that money from this property that you're making. You're just going to make your HELOC, your checking account. That's it in the story.
Your home equity line of credit is your checking account that you live out of.
Right. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I want to make sure that I hear what you said. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey, Bud, how are you? Lee Johnson here, and sorry I had to step away, but I'm back now. One of the negatives that I saw in this velocity banking was what happens when or if the bank takes that line down from you.
Never heard of that happening. It's your primary mortgage. What are they going to do?
Well, it's the HELOC. So if, let's say I have a HELOC and it's at 100,000 and all of a sudden the asset that's backing that, the property decides to dive. Like, see, it goes down 50,000 and I've exercised that line, but now they've taken it down from 100,000 down to 50,000, but I have money outstanding. Do I have to call that money in immediately? What's the story going to be around that?
I've never heard of a call on a home equity line of credit.
So I guess you weren't investing around 2008 when things got lopsided.
They were primarily 80/20 loans that got called. And that was because they went down so fast that, you know, they were calling loans, they were calling primary loans. They weren't just calling HELOCs, they were calling everything. And yeah, they were foreclosing on everything.
Yeah, no.
So
They were
yeah,
foreclosing
there
on
are,
everything.
you're right. And the worst case scenario is that you lose your ass. It's real estate. That's kind of, right? I mean,
Well,
but
the
you're
thing
doing the
is-
same thing in a multifamily, you're doing the same thing in a single family, you're doing the same thing on your personal. I mean, when I moved in here, the company that built my development decided they weren't going to finish the back. I was the mayor at the, actually, this is what caused me to run for mayor. They decided they weren't going to finish my development, and my house went from 308,000 to 260,000 in a month.
Ooh.
Yeah. So things happen, right? They didn't call my account.
Yeah. No, what I heard, and this is third party through third party, I heard someone had a line and they were using it as their checking account, and all of a sudden the bank said, well, that line of credit that you had at that amount, we're going to reduce it by this amount. And the person was in a jam because they were using it as they were using it to pay off their living expenses.
Mhm.
I don't know the whole entire story, but this was one of the stories that I heard around velocity banking. And while I have you, if you had to compare infinite banking to velocity banking, which one would you, like, you had to choose one, which one would you recommend that a person choose to go with?
Oh, I'm an asset collector, man. I'm trying to buy 48 properties tomorrow. I'm not kidding. I actually have I'm waiting for an answer tonight on whether or not we're going to contract on 48 units tomorrow. So as far as I'm concerned, I am all about asset collection because I am hedging myself. I am cashing in my IRAs and buying rental properties because I'm hedging against what I believe is coming.
Okay. No. All right. Thank you.
You got it, man. Pleasure.
Awesome. I appreciate all the questions. And just to recap, I will be posting this tomorrow early in the morning for anyone who wants to catch a replay and whose mind has just been so just transformed. And if you have any questions, feel free to save the chats, 3 buttons to the right there, save the chat, and make sure you touch base with Bud, as well as Adam Duran. I definitely did have him on the show as well. So he was a wealth of knowledge in regards to that. So make sure you guys connect with the both of them and make sure you understand this concept and don't just hold it, go out and apply. That's the key. So with that being said, Bud, I want to thank you again, sir, for jumping on and educating us. I definitely have to watch this about 2-3 times again to make sure I grasp the concept, and I will be ringing your phone. So be aware of that. But again, thank you for your time. Thank you for this amazing presentation. You're more than welcome to come back anytime you want, sir. The platform is always
I
open.
try to get here every Monday, Mark. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate all the knowledge that you levy on us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So with that said, everyone, that is all for tonight. We're gonna do we don't have too much breakout rooms today, but we'll just do a little quick after party. Until next time, guys, see you next week. Thank you.